back to the phone lines, talk to Jay in Arlington, Virginia. Jay's listening in Sirius XM 131. Hi, Jay.
So I've had discussions with people, and I don't have a real good answer for this, so maybe you could just sort of address it. And it's sort of the question that goes back to the concept of original sin and the fact that we have an all-knowing, all-powerful, all-merciful God who created us knowing that we had this proclivity towards this curiosity. He fabricated us with all of the tendencies that we have and is able to see all things. And how and why, I guess, are we subjects as having, for example, I never asked to be created or born, and yet I'm subject to original sin that Adam and Eve committed in the Garden of Eden. So I don't know how to rationalize that to myself sometimes, but certainly for other people. And I'm going to hang up so I can listen to your response. I love your ministry. Thanks for your help.
Thank you, Jay. And yeah, I mean, it's it's one of these issues that we determine by going right back to the beginning. God could have created the angels. He could have created humankind in such a way that they could not sin. But as I've said many times in this broadcast, had God done that, then they could not have loved in a genuine way, because love always requires volition. So God created as volitional beings, human beings, that can, in fact, choose to love Him or choose to reject Him. Now, I think on a larger scale, we were created for life in the Trinity, which is to say, we were created for fellowship with God. We were created for loving relationships with God. And without love, obviously, we cannot be brought in to the loving relationships of the Trinity. The great thing is that God created us in such a way that love is possible. And through that, if you think about His wisdom, you realize immediately that He created the potential for the best of all possible worlds as well, a world in which we will forever be able not to sin. So it is true that we are born with a broken gene as a result of Adam's sin, and that, as the Bible said, all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. But we're also born in such a way that we can choose to love the one who has revealed Himself to us in creation, on our conscience, and through the light of Christ. And as we respond to light, we will continue to receive more and more light. So it's a wonderful thing that you were born and that you have an opportunity to respond to the grace and goodness of God, as I'm sure you have, and to continue to grow in that love relationship. I mean, that's one of the great things that all of us can experience. It is the infilling, the ingrafting of Christ. I mentioned earlier a saying of the early church fathers: kenosis becomes theosis. He emptied Himself, and it became the means by which we can be filled with Christ, the very presence of Christ, so that we can live within the context of what we were created to live within, and that is fellowship within the Trinity. And that extends to fellowship with one another. So we can learn to love other people in a genuine, selfless way, as opposed to a selfish way. So all of that God has placed. Now, God did, of course, have the opportunity to create a world in which we could not choose, but then again, we would not be brought into fellowship with the Trinity.